what I've heard about them as a couple is that they've been living separate lives for a very long time. So they together, but they living separate.
Now,
maybe she doesn't know.
Beyonce doesn't know.
Yeah, I don't think Beyonce. They're not going to share that with her.
Yvette knows. I got the receipts. I still have the receipts.
Women who are supporting Cassie, who maybe have some stories about you that might feel a bit similar, you need to be put on mute. This is not your time.
So the streets have been buzzing that Jason Lee may be sitting on explosive information tied to Beyoncé and Jay-Z's marriage, and that buzz hasn't come out of nowhere. Online chatter suggests Jason tried to quietly signal trouble long before the wider public picked up on it. Some are even saying he attempted to warn people about a possible separation, only to be dismissed at the time. What once sounded like noise is now being replayed with a different tone, and that shift is where this story really starts to tighten. Anyone who's been active online lately likely remembers Jason stirring the pot months ago, openly shading Beyoncé on his talk show. In one moment that stood out, he put her in an uncomfortable spotlight, hinting that he had damaging information about her marriage to Jay-Z. The implication was clear enough to register. He suggested that unless Beyoncé helped him secure an interview with Kelly Rowland, he might not stay quiet. It was a bold move, one that immediately rubbed people the wrong way. At the time, most fans weren't buying any of it. The response was swift and loud.
We could take it back a step further. We can go all the way back to when he was trying to get with Aaliyah. The Foxy rumors. This man has a legit history of what he's allegedly doing to Beyoncé now. So why is it so far-fetched to y'all to think that he's not doing the same thing to Beyoncé? Just because it's Beyoncé? I'm gonna need y'all to take y'all stand caps off and put your thinking caps on.
People clowned Jason hard for coming at Beyoncé that way, framing it as nothing more than a desperate grab for attention. The consensus then was simple: he was reaching, and there was no substance behind the threat. But that reaction didn't age the way many expected. With fresh rumors now circulating that Beyoncé may be ready to walk away from Jay-Z, people have started replaying Jason's words and reassessing them. What once sounded reckless is now being examined as possible foreshadowing, and the situation suddenly feels far messier than anyone anticipated. To understand how this entire Jason Lee situation actually took shape, it helps to go back to December, when tensions first boiled over.
I think optically, when you don't include other Black leaders in the culture in the fold, I mean, not just take me out of it. The Breakfast Club, I mean, you should have honored and brought more Black. And I spent thousands, over $40,000 in tickets and shared the experience with friends. And I've done a lot, and I'm not even going to say it here because if I did, this internet, Beyonce's good internet would go great.
That S when Jason reportedly became upset after being left off the guest list for Beyoncé's Renaissance movie premiere bash in London. The event itself was highly exclusive, and Beyoncé had invited a number of influencers to attend. Jason, however, wasn't among them, and that exclusion clearly struck a nerve. Not long after, Jason went on camera and openly criticized Beyoncé, accusing her of failing to support Black media. He added another layer to the grievance by claiming he had spent around $40,000 on Renaissance concert tickets and merchandise for his team. In his mind, that level of loyalty and financial support should have translated into an invitation to her event. It didn't. Beyoncé never sent one, even as other influencers, some with far less history or investment, were seen celebrating alongside her that same night. That perceived slight appeared to change Jason's tone entirely.
I'm going to tell them while Johnny puts a beep, so you'll never know what it is, but I want you to see their reactions.
Ooh.
And that's where I go back. We're friends. Can you imagine had I put that on Hollywood? Like, oh, there was one more thing. Beat this, Johnny.
Woo!
So that in itself, I think Beyonce could have gave me a...
Maybe she doesn't know.
Beyonce doesn't know.
Yeah, I don't think Beyonce. They're not going to share that with her.
No. Now, if I get that message to Beyonce, I'm connected. I could get the message to Beyonce. You know that, Yvette, we're trying to book Kelly Rowland right now. Now, if I don't get Kelly Rowland, then it's going to be a problem. Then I'm putting out receipts.
After venting publicly, he returned to his show and began dropping hints about supposed information he claimed to be holding on Beyoncé. According to those present, the atmosphere shifted immediately. Guests sat stunned, jaws tight, eyes wide, clearly unsure how to react to what they were hearing. Jason seemed aware of the impact and pressed further, escalating the situation in real time. He then took it a step further by implying that he would keep quiet about these alleged secrets, but only if Beyoncé used her influence to get Kelly Rowland to sit down for an interview with him. The implication bordered on blackmail, delivered openly and without much attempt to soften it. It was a moment that made even his supporters uneasy, and it solidified the perception that he was acting out of bitterness rather than principle. Back then, most fans dismissed the entire episode. Jason's rant was written off as sour grapes and clout-chasing, the reaction of someone angry about being excluded. Very few believed he had any real information about Beyoncé or her marriage. But now, with divorce rumors picking up traction, that dismissal is being revisited.
Sean Carter is worse.
Uh-oh.
Oh, man.
He's smarter. He's patient. He's not sloppy.
Mm-hmm.
This been lining up people he calls friends and stepping to the side while they get hit by the guillotine for 30 years.
Social media is busy connecting dots, wondering whether the information Jason hinted at is the same tea he was threatening to spill all along. For those still trying to understand where these separation rumors even come from, the context matters. Jay-Z has previously admitted to infidelity, and over the years he's been linked to multiple women. Those admissions never fully faded from public memory. Combined with Jason's earlier claims, they've created fertile ground for speculation, and that speculation is now feeding into a narrative that many once thought impossible. The situation escalated further when attention shifted toward Jay-Z's long-standing connection with Diddy. That connection became a focal point once people began revisiting how deeply intertwined their business and personal ties really were. Industry chatter suggests Beyoncé may have been caught off guard by certain moves Jay was allegedly making alongside Diddy, moves that suddenly looked riskier as Diddy's legal and public troubles intensified.
Oh, Jay-Z. And he was working with R. Kelly, and they were making so many records together. You know, they made all of those records together. They both, Aaliyah, they shared so much in common.
The narrative forming online is that Beyoncé has been trying to create distance before any fallout lands too close to home, especially with so many unresolved questions hanging in the air. Jay-Z and Diddy were known to be close for decades. Their relationship was often described as brotherly, built through years of shared power, influence, and access. But that image started to crack not long before Cassie's lawsuit became public. Around that time, Diddy went on record emphasizing how exclusive his inner circle really was, saying that only 2 people in the world were allowed to call him by his first name, his mother and Jay-Z. The message was deliberate, framing their bond as untouchable, almost familial. What made that moment stand out was the timing.
Yeah, Beyonce's on. She's been on them for a long time, and you keep her that way.
By then, Diddy was reportedly already aware that Cassie was preparing to file her lawsuit. Her legal team later claimed he had spent years attempting to negotiate behind the scenes, allegedly offering her millions in exchange for silence. Against that backdrop, some observers believe Diddy's public mention of Jay-Z wasn't accidental. Instead, it's been interpreted as a calculated signal, a reminder of shared history and shared risk. The implication being that if the situation collapsed, it wouldn't collapse quietly. From there, the speculation grew darker. Persistent industry rumors suggest that Jay and Diddy may share more similarities than fans are comfortable acknowledging, particularly in how they allegedly treat women. Jaguar Wright added fuel to that narrative by publicly claiming that Jay could be even worse than Diddy. According to her, Jay's silence throughout Diddy's ongoing controversies isn't about loyalty or respect. She framed it as fear, the idea that if Diddy decided to speak freely, he could reveal damaging information about Jay as well, including allegations tied to his private life and his marriage. Those claims reopened a series of long-running whispers that had never fully disappeared. Jaguar didn't limit her comments to recent events.
Wow, a long time.
How long? 10 years?
However long she's been recording. That's when I met her.
Well, don't you remember how long it was?
Yeah, when I met her. I mean,
Was it 5 years ago? Was it?
I met her 10 years ago.
But did you say to yourself at that time, wow?
That's a fantastic talent.
Was that what you said?
Yeah.
She pointed back to rumors that have circulated for years, alleging Jay's involvement with significantly younger women in the industry. Names like Foxy Brown, Aaliyah, Tiara Mari, and even Rihanna have repeatedly surfaced in conversations, rumors that fans continue to revisit whenever Jay's past comes under scrutiny. Adding to that discomfort is Jay-Z's documented association with R. Kelly. Even after Kelly's crimes were widely exposed, Jay refused to fully sever ties for years. That decision alone caused many to question his judgment and his boundaries, especially given the severity of the allegations against Kelly. For critics, it reinforced the perception that Jay was willing to overlook disturbing behavior as long as it didn't directly threaten his own position. At the same time, Beyoncé's own fanbase has never completely stopped questioning her relationship with Jay-Z. The story of how they met has always been surrounded by vague details and shifting timelines.
Talking about free Britney, y'all need to be doing a campaign that say free Beyonce.
Beyonce is free.
She is a prisoner in a gilded cage.
Beyoncé has stated that she was 18 when they first met and that they began dating about a year later. That version stood largely unchallenged until a 2007 interview introduced a troubling inconsistency. During that interview, Jay-Z was asked how long he had known Beyoncé. He appeared visibly uncomfortable and ended up saying they had met 10 years earlier. That single comment immediately raised eyebrows. When people did the math, it placed their first meeting around 1997. At that time, Beyoncé would have been roughly 15 or 16 years old, while Jay was already 28. That age gap alone caused renewed scrutiny, especially in light of the other rumors tied to his past. Once that door reopened, attention shifted again to Jay's earlier relationships. Before Beyoncé, he was rumored to be closely involved with Foxy Brown while she was still in her mid-teens, allegedly positioning himself as a mentor while promising to elevate her career. Those claims have never been proven, but they've lingered for years, resurfacing whenever Jay's personal history is examined too closely. More people started comparing this situation to what Diddy had with Cassie, pointing out the familiar power imbalance.
So even by your own metrics, that doesn't work. Think about that. The most Grammys, never won album of the year. That doesn't work.
Diddy was 36 while Cassie was only 19, and for many observers, that comparison didn't feel accidental. From there, the allegations surrounding Jay-Z and Beyoncé took on a much heavier tone. Over the years, rumors have circulated claiming that Jay allegedly introduced Beyoncé to certain substances. Those claims have been repeated by individuals like her supposed former bodyguard and her uncle Ron, who have suggested that Jay maintained influence over her through control rather than partnership. According to these allegations, Jay is described as the one holding the reins in their relationship, directing decisions and shaping Beyoncé's world from behind the scenes. These are serious claims, and while unproven, they have continued to circulate because they align with a broader narrative some people believe they've been watching unfold for years. Jaguar Wright pushed that narrative even further, claiming Beyoncé isn't living freely at all. In her words, Beyoncé exists like a prisoner inside a gilded cage, surrounded by wealth and luxury, but stripped of real autonomy and independence. That framing alone was enough to unsettle fans, but what really sent the divorce rumors into overdrive was a moment that played out on one of the biggest stages in the world. Jay-Z recently took the microphone to defend Beyoncé during the Grammys, criticizing the institution for repeatedly denying her an Album of the Year award. At first, the public response was positive. Many applauded him for standing up for his wife and calling out what they see as long-standing bias. But as the moment lingered, sharp-eyed viewers began noticing details that didn't sit right. Beyoncé's body language stood out. She didn't look emotional or grateful. She appeared tense, almost uncomfortable, and noticeably detached from the speech being delivered in her defense. Then came the moment that shifted the tone entirely. While praising her achievements, Jay didn't even refer to her by name. Instead, he called her "this young lady." That wording landed awkwardly, and fans immediately questioned why he avoided saying Beyoncé or even calling her his wife. The confusion deepened moments later. As soon as Jay finished speaking, Beyoncé and Blue Ivy left the Grammys altogether. The exit felt abrupt and strange, especially considering Jay was still there to accept his own Global Impact Award. To many watching, the contradiction was glaring. He accepted an honor from the same institution he had just criticized, while Beyoncé quietly walked away. The optics didn't align, and viewers struggled to reconcile the mixed signals. Even more unsettling was the choice to put Beyoncé on the spot in front of millions without acknowledging her directly. No name. No personal reference. Just distance. Fans described the energy as cold and uncomfortable, and some said it echoed another moment that still looms large in pop culture memory. Comparisons were drawn to when Diddy publicly praised Cassie shortly before her lawsuit surfaced, a moment that now feels chilling in hindsight. At the same time, Beyoncé's recent behavior has only added to the speculation. She's been working relentlessly, launching her haircare line, promoting new music, and expanding her business footprint at an aggressive pace. Online chatter suggests this isn't just ambition, but strategy. The belief forming is that Beyoncé is building a financial and creative empire separate from Jay, preparing for independence before any potential fallout tied to his alleged connections with Diddy becomes unavoidable. That's where Jason Lee re-enters the picture. People are now questioning whether the IT he hinted at was never really about Beyoncé alone, but about Jay-Z and his relationship with Diddy. The timing matters. Jason's comments came shortly after Cassie's lawsuit went public, and now, in hindsight, that timing feels deliberate to many observers. The dots are connecting fast, and fans are visibly shaken. What once felt like scattered rumors now reads like a pattern that keeps repeating. The situation looks increasingly unstable, layered with unresolved questions and uncomfortable parallels. And Jason Lee remains at the center of it, positioned as someone who may be holding information capable of shaking everything if he ever decides to fully speak. Whether he will or not remains unknown, but the possibility alone is enough to keep people watching closely. One thing that's never been disputed is how Jason operates when he decides to speak. When he opens his mouth, he rarely pulls punches. That reputation alone is why the conversation online has intensified so quickly. Social media is already flooded with opinions, breakdowns, and speculation, and a growing number of people are openly saying they wouldn't be shocked if Jay-Z ultimately comes out looking even worse than Diddy. That sentiment alone shows how far public perception has shifted in a relatively short amount of time. At the same time, not everyone is automatically positioning Beyoncé as a victim in this unfolding narrative. There's another line of thinking gaining traction, one that complicates the picture even further. Some believe Beyoncé may be under just as much pressure, not because of what Jay might reveal, but because of what could surface about her if everything collapses. In that view, the stress isn't only about protecting a marriage, but about protecting an image, a legacy, and an empire that has been carefully built over decades. That's what makes this situation feel unpredictable. If Jay goes down, some believe Beyoncé's own past, decisions, or silence could be scrutinized in ways she may not be prepared for. The idea circulating is that both sides may be holding their breath, fully aware that once certain doors open, they can't be closed again. It reframes the divorce rumors as less about emotional separation and more about timing, leverage, and damage control. Because of that, the question hovering over all of this isn't just whether Beyoncé wants out, but whether walking away is even possible without triggering consequences on a massive scale. She's deeply tied into the same business structures, partnerships, and public narratives as Jay. Untangling that isn't simple, and it's not something that happens quietly. The longer this drags on, the more it feels like any move, or lack of one, will speak volumes. As this continues to unfold, the sense is that people aren't just watching a marriage. They're watching two global brands maneuver around potential exposure, public fallout, and the risk of losing control of the narrative. Jason Lee remains a looming factor in all of this, not because he's confirmed anything, but because of what he's implied and when he chose to imply it. That timing alone keeps him relevant to the story. Whether Beyoncé is preparing to walk away, or whether both sides are choosing to stay put to protect something larger than themselves, isn't clear yet. What is clear is that the silence, the body language, the distancing, and the carefully chosen words have become just as loud as any accusation. For those following closely, this feels less like celebrity gossip and more like a slow reveal of tensions that have been building behind closed doors for years. And as long as those tensions remain unresolved, people will keep watching Fame Time, waiting to see which move comes next.